You've had enough. Time and time again, you've tried reasoning with these people, and it's always the same old song and dance. The word salad, the circular conversations, the name calling, the silent treatment. You might not be ready to leave just yet, but at this point, you have one foot out the door, emotionally anyway. You no longer give a hoot when they go silent. Instead of feeling afraid, you now feel angry and disgusted. How many of you can relate to that one? Leave a comment down below if you're there at this point in your life. The times that you tried reasoning with them is now replaced with you walking out the door because you want nothing to do with them anymore. When you stop chasing a narcissist, whether that means no contact if you did leave, gray rocking, or just finally not explaining yourself anymore, something shifts and they feel it almost immediately, because as much as they tell you that they're psychic, they aren't. They watch your every move. That's how they know. That's how they see it. Even in all those times that they're ignoring you, they are still watching. So it only stands to reason that they pick up on this shift right away, right? They might go silent. They might lash out. They could suddenly become nice. But deep down, you know that this isn't about love. It's about control. It's always about control with these people. And in this video today, I want to walk with you through the emotional fallout of that moment, the moment that you stopped chasing them and they realized that they lost their grip. The narcissist doesn't just miss the attention, aka supply, they miss the power. And when the power starts slipping, so does the mask. So what happens when you start pulling away from a narcissist? They feel it before you even say a word. They pick up on the slight shift in your tone, that pause before you reply. They pick up on all of it. If you think that you're hyper-vigilant in your survival mode, it's a nothing burger compared to their hyper-vigilance. That's how important control is to them. Pay attention. Watch them squirm. That moment that you chose you over them, they take personally. It's an insult to them. They see it as an attack. They see it like an employee suddenly becoming a belligerent and turning against the boss, or the slave that they purchased is no longer listening. And that angers and frustrates them because now they have to do damage control. When you start pulling away from a narcissist, when you begin giving less of yourself, everything changes. And not because they care about your feelings. They don't. They care about losing control. Pulling away to a narcissist, it looks like betrayal to them. That's how they see it. They see it in the same way that a partner cheats on a spouse. You're out of line. You've stepped off track. And that's a nuisance because after all that work they put into training you, into conditioning you. Let's take a look at exactly what happens when you stop feeding the narcissist your energy and what you can expect in return. But first, let's define what pulling away is, because it doesn't always mean cutting contact here. It just means things like you stop explaining yourself, you stop reacting to their games, you stop needing their validation. You might still do certain things like cook for them or take care of their vehicles, but you stop doing extra. You're only doing basics at that point. There are no longer any special surprises like desserts or bringing snacks to them or maybe topping up the vehicle up with gas. It's just the bare minimum. You even choose silence over confrontation because it just isn't worth your time anymore. That's you healing, and that's good. And they're going to notice it all. I remember a comment that the narcissist in my life back then had said. I was working on my computer and stopped for a quick break and made a plate of snacks for myself. He immediately saw me walking by and said, "What about me?" I was so put off because I was constantly making meals for him. And once in a while, if I didn't cook, he would make for himself without offering anything to me. They're incredibly selfish. Anyway, when you stop being emotionally available and no longer chase them, when you stop breaking your own boundaries to keep them comfortable, it is terrifying to them. They're accustomed to being able to get a reaction from you whenever they want. That is supply for them, to know that they control you like that. Here's where it gets real. First, they test you. At first, it's subtle, almost unnoticeable. They might poke at you with sarcasm. Oh, look who suddenly found their independence. Or they slip in a passive-aggressive comment. Must be nice to not care anymore. Maybe it's guilt. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? It's not random. It's a test. They're checking to see if they can still control your emotions. And if you react, if you defend yourself, explain, even just look upset, they know that they still have access to you. And that's all they need to keep the game going. Next, they turn up the charm. When the jabs don't work, they switch tactics. And not everybody has the same way or order of doing things, but these are things that they do. They'll jump from one thing to another to in desperation to gain control. And suddenly they'll be sweet again, attentive. They might send a nostalgic message. Remember that night we laughed for hours? I miss that. Or they'll show up acting like a different person. Soft voice, kind eyes, and compliments. You'll hear words like, I've been thinking, I realized what I did was wrong. I want to make things right. Now, mind you, not all narcissists will say words like this. Most of them won't actually. They'll more likely than not say something like, I think we should go to couples therapy, or we should be nicer to each other. We? And a lot of times it feels convincing. It's all the words that you've been longing for, but that's not change. It is strategy. They're not trying to heal. They are hunting. They're trying to pull you back into the web to regain control over your attention and emotions. Now, if that fails, next step is they'll punish you. When the charm fails, when you don't take the bait, the mask drops again. And coldness replaces warmth, and suddenly you're the problem. Again, everything is all your fault. They'll lash out, accuse you of being selfish, cruel, or unstable. They need to win, even if that means destroying the version of you they once pretended to love. They might even ghost you, smear you, or play the victim to others. I tried so hard, but they just gave up on me. They're actors. And every stage has one goal: to pull you back into their orbit or to save face. The moment that you stop feeding them your energy, they lose their power. And that's what they fear most. But the punishment phase can take many forms. Some narcissists go into a full rage mode. They might send you a barrage of angry texts, twisting everything to make you the villain. You've changed. You're ungrateful. You've turned into the toxic one. It's projection. They're describing themselves, but want you to carry the blame. And others, they'll take the silent route. They'll vanish. They'll go cold, maybe block you or ignore you for days or weeks. But make no mistake, this isn't peace. It's tactical silence. They want you to panic, to wonder what you did wrong, to reach out first. They want you to chase them again because that means that they still have power. So don't do it. And then there's the smear campaign. If you stay quiet long enough, they're going to start talking to mutual friends, to family, and even online. They'll twist the story before you can tell your truth. They'll say that you're crazy, you're dramatic, or emotionally unstable. They love that one. They need to rewrite the narrative so that they don't look like the one who lost control. And if you really hold your ground, if you don't respond at all, that's when they'll move into the replacement phase. They might suddenly flaunt a new person online or around town, someone who looks oddly like you and acts like you, or fills the same role that you once did. They'll post pictures, sweet captions that they'll share on their pictures. This is what real love looks like. It's not about love. They're performing again. They're still trying to save face in front of others and still punishing you by trying to hurt you. So don't bite. Maybe you can respond with a great big congrats, happy for you. It's all a game to them. a desperate attempt to prove to themselves and everyone else that they're fine without you. But behind the scenes, they're boiling because deep down, they know that they lost control of something that they thought that they owned. Talk about being delusional. Another thing that you might notice if they haven't taken the disappearing act route is they'll start copying your new energy. If you're calm, they'll act calm. And often it's to show you that they too can be indifferent. Again, it's to place you into a fear place, to control you. Or if you seem focused on yourself, they'll suddenly act like they're working on themselves too. It's not growth, it's mimicry. They're mirroring your healing so that they can try to sneak back into your emotional space. They'll use language that you used to use. They'll talk about boundaries, emotional maturity, or mutual respect, the very things that they once mocked you with. Or you'll see them reading the self-help books that you used to read, and they'll make sure that you notice. Your book will be visibly around, like their side of the bed or on their desk, which you clean. Because they never clean, most of them. Anyway, it's performance, performance, performance. Do not bite. Eyes wide open and pay attention. You are not responsible for their pain. They won't give up without a fight either, so watch for the manipulation tactics that they'll try to use to pull you back in. So watch out for these, the guilt trips. After everything I've done for you, the false vulnerability. I'm going through a lot right now, especially the coverts. I need you. The blame shifting. You've changed. You're so cold now. The triangulation. Even your sister said you're acting weird. The future faking. Let's just get back to how things used to be. I swear it's going to be different this time. Yeah, right. They'll use whatever worked before. But the moment that you recognize the pattern and stay grounded, the power begins to shift. You simply stopped feeding the system. And I prefer saying system because they're really not human. You stopped handing over your power. And to someone who lives off control, that's a crisis. They can't regulate themselves without someone to dominate. So when you pull away, you're not just taking back your sense of self here. You're taking their emotional fuel source. That's why the reaction feels so intense. So what do you do when they start testing, charming, and punishing, and maybe even pretending to heal? How do you stay grounded when they're trying every trick in the book? Let's talk about what real detachment looks like and how to hold your power no matter what they throw at you. So here's what most people don't talk about. Pulling away doesn't always feel powerful. At first, it can feel scary. Guilt shows up at the door again, sometimes loneliness. Sometimes you'll feel as though you're being mean and the guilt again kicks in. But these are just withdrawal symptoms from a toxic dynamic. You're detoxing from overgiving, from emotional dependency, and from the illusion that their approval equals your worth. But once that fog clears, you start to breathe again. You'll start to feel like yourself again. Your sense of self returns. You begin hearing the voice that was silenced for so long. If you're pulling away from a narcissist right now and it's messy, confusing, or painful, that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong here. It means that you're moving towards change, towards positive change. And it's all part of it. And that can be uncomfortable for a little while because you're disrupting the pattern. You're choosing peace over performance and reality over illusion. You've come to radical acceptance. Narcissists, they need control to feel safe, not connection, not intimacy, control. So when you stop reacting to their guilt and start saying, I don't have the energy for this, or stop caring about what they think, they feel irrelevant. And that's their worst fear. You become unpredictable. Have they not hurt you enough? So stop feeling guilty. Become unreachable and become unmoldable. They no longer know which version of you that they're dealing with here because you're no longer playing the game. And that shift, it forces them to face a truth that they've avoided their whole lives. They are not the center of your world anymore. And even if they don't like it, even if they try to pull you back in, your detachment is your freedom. You don't need to explain why you're pulling away. You've given them ample opportunity over and over again to do right by you. And they chose to keep hurting you instead. That was never love. And even if you give them another chance, they'll go back to hurting you again. So you don't owe them anything. You owe only to you now, because your eyes are wide open, knowing full well that all those things that they made you believe about yourself were lies, lies to benefit them, so that you could be nothing more than a rag to them, a slave for their own benefits. You don't need them to tell you that you matter, which they'll never tell you anyway. But you can now look back in the mirror and see that you matter to yourself, because I may not be the narcissist here, but I'm here to tell you that you do matter, and you matter a lot. So that is all for today. And if this video resonated with you, please click that like button, consider subscribing, and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.